Good morning, backyard kids. As you know, this month we've been learning all about humility. And humility is showing others how much you care about them by putting them first and sometimes giving up something that you think that you deserve. The last couple of weeks we've been focusing mainly on stories from Jesus' life. And there's no more perfect example than Jesus, who literally gave up his life for all of us. So we know as we went through Holy Week last week that during that time, Jesus celebrated Passover with the disciples. He was betrayed, he was crucified, he was buried. On the third day, then he came back to life. Now, after that time, he spent 40 days here on earth, still with the disciples, teaching them some last minute things that he wanted them to know. And then he ascended to be with his Father in heaven. But that was nowhere near the end of the story. The disciples did just what Jesus had asked them to do, and they continued to spread the good news of Jesus throughout the land. And as they did this, more and more people came to believe in God and in the Christianity that was being preached through Jesus' life. One of these people was a man named Paul. And he devoted his entire life to spreading the good news of Jesus as much and as far as he could. And as he did this, he spread throughout, he taught and he preached, and he also helped to found churches in different areas. Now, unfortunately, just like they had done to Jesus during his time, there were a lot of rulers and lawmakers that didn't like the way that Paul was spreading this information. And so he was arrested many times. But Paul didn't let that get him down. He spent the time in prison continuing to worship, continuing to pray, and he spent this time writing letters to these churches that he had founded. And in his letters, he would give advice, he would give a lot of times encouragement, and he would give them daily reminders about how they should live as children of God. And in his letters to both the people at Ephesus and at also in Philippi, in these letters, he wrote to them about what it meant to be humble. He talked to them about loving each other, about putting other people first above themselves, about forgiving others, even when it's hard, about always making sure to live the way Jesus did. And in one of his letters in particular to the church at Philippi, he pointed out that Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice. He was the ultimate example of humility. Jesus literally gave his physical life for each of us. And he wanted the Philippians to remember that and to live in that same way, to follow Jesus' example by being kind, by being loving, by being patient, and by going out of their way to take care of the needs of those around them. And guys, there are some things that haven't changed. It's a very different world that we live in than the world that Paul lived in. But Jesus' example is still the same. And we should follow that example every day that we can, by following those same instructions, by living kindly, by putting others first, because Jesus put us first.